All right. Hi, folks. Happy Tuesday. My name is Grisel Ramirez, and I would like to welcome you all to today's NTAC session. As part of the Heartwork series called Solution Circle, a problem-solving tool. We are so happy that you are taking your time out of your busy schedules to join us today. You may have heard it in some of the other sessions. But before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items to go over with you. And in the meantime, we'd like to learn more about who is joining us today in the chat box. If you wouldn't mind putting your name, your organization, your role, and where you are located. Next slide, please. Alrighty, as part of our session, we must provide you with this disclaimer. This presentation was prepared by NTAC under a cooperative agreement from SAMHSA. And while this event is supported by SAMHSA, the contents are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of SAMHSA, HHS, or the US government. Next slide, please. Alrighty, and while we hope there are no security issues that happen today, if that does occur, this session will immediately end and you'll be notified via email on how to rejoin a new session. Next slide, please. And thank you again for joining one of our NTAC sessions. On the screen, you could see listed are all of our national partners that have come together to utilize their expertise and their subject matter knowledge to help inform the field by creating products, resources, and sessions like this one to enhance the behavioral and mental health fields. Next slide. Almost done with housekeeping. But as a center, our vision is that all children, youth, and families living with and impacted by mental health challenges will have access to the resources and opportunities they need to thrive in a comprehensive and equitable system of care. We serve a wide cross-sector audience, including everyone from state leaders to providers to school workforce, infant and early childhood providers, community-based providers, peer supervisors, family partners, and much more. Our service ranges from individual consultation to more in-depth sessions like the one we're offering today, to peer learning exchanges and tools to help you. And our goal is to really create an outlet for communication, collaboration, and resource sharing. So if you haven't, please make sure to check out all of our resources and archive presentations on our website, where you can also go to the Contact Us link to request consultation or training. Next slide, please. And then here are some of the commonly asked questions that we have. There'll be a follow-up email after today's session where you will receive a certificate of completion for this event. If you are participating by phone only, please email Joanne Bloom at jbloom@cars-rp.org to report your participation. You will get a copy of the presentation that was used for this event, and then you will also get a recording of this event as well. Alrighty, next slide. We are done with housekeeping items. And so now I want to welcome you all again to today's session, Solution Circle, a problem-solving tool, the last session in the Heartwork series that we've had this month. And now I'll go ahead and hand it over to Sarif.
Thank you. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. So I'm just going to check with Crystal. If you can hear me, I'm hoping that means everyone can. Excellent. Thank you. So now welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me this morning where I am. I think last time we did this session it was evening where I was. Today's session we are going to be looking at one problem-solving tool. It's called the Solution Circle, and we'll go through looking at the agenda. We'll go through the overview. What is it? How does it work? When does it work? And crucially also, when does it not work? We'll do a trial run, and so while I'm going through these next sort of 6 or 8 slides explaining the session itself or explaining the tool itself. What I'd really appreciate is if you just take a look inside yourself and think, do I want to contribute to the trial run? And if so, please volunteer to do so. That trial run, we're going to be looking for around about 6 to 8 people. I'll explain what the roles are in a moment. Or as I go through the slides, you'll see what the roles are. The idea of doing the trial run together, this is a very practical tool. The idea of doing the trial run together is that this is the safe place to make mistakes. This is the place to learn. This is the place to ask questions when using the tool. And we'll have a little reflection opportunity as well, thinking about when we might use a tool, when it might be better to use a different tool. I also want us to reflect a little bit for those of us who were at the session a couple of weeks ago that I delivered, reflect a little bit on the purpose of that session in the role of youth justice work, but also the purpose of this tool as well in the role of youth justice work. Why is that? Why is it valuable? Why is it helpful for us? The breakouts you'll see under item 3, the reason we're doing the breakouts is then once we've had that opportunity to do the trial run and do the reflection, I want us to have at least one trial round each. And what I mean by each is everyone participates in a solution circle, not every role within the circle, just a circle itself. And we're going to do that in breakout rooms. So at that point, we'll look at how many total participants we have, and we'll break out into rooms nearer the time. Again, something to just keep in your back pocket for now, but to mention nearer the time. If you're not able to participate for whatever reason, your mic's not working, your camera's not working, you're not in a safe place to do so, when we get to that point into the breakout rooms, just please let it make yourselves known to Joanne or Crystal or myself, either via, you can do that via direct message through Zoom, so you don't have to notify everyone. You can just send the messages directly, and we'll manage that safely for you, as safely as we can. And then at the end of the session, hopefully there'll still be some time for some Q&A. But I'll invite questions throughout as appropriate as well. But questions I might ask you to hold on to the end is item 4. That's where we'll address those. So without further ado, we'll get going. I know there's a couple of people still joining us, so I'm sure Joanne and Crystal will be able to manage that for us. So thank you to them both in advance. And thank you once again to everyone for joining me today. Solution circles. They are I have this habit of not reading to the slides, so I put that up there because it's a nice thing for everyone to be able to read and something for people to focus on if you prefer the reading part of these presentations. For me, I prefer the explanation side of it. So I'll explain. You're welcome to read the slide deck, or I can or you can listen to my explanation. These are a tool that I use often in my work. And the reason I use these is it borrows the expertise of the people around me. It borrows the expertise of the teams that I'm in or the expertise of the teams that I'm supporting. It allows us to become unstuck from a problem. This is a tool that I've used in life, so in work and in work for life-based things. I tend not to use them in my family, like just general family situations. It doesn't really lend itself well to that. There's a lot of boundaries that are required, and those things tend not to work well in family situations, but they do work well amongst colleagues, professionals, and so on. I've already talked a little about community capacity. What I mean here is borrowing that expertise of your colleagues. And the idea here is really about how our colleagues and the people we work with listen and reflect on the lenses they bring and how it might just unlock a next step. Solution circles are not going to solve all of your problems, and they're not going to work every time. They work when they work they work when they're used in the way that they're intended, in the way that they're designed. And that moment, the time that they're intended to be used, is when you're stuck with a problem and you just need 1 or 2 steps to either trial and see, is this a way out? Or trial, okay, this is something that has worked previously, let's try that again. It'll become more clear as I go through. So a quick how-to. Each session, each circle needs only around 6 to 8 people. There are 4 phases to the circle, and each phase is 6 minutes. Now, the 6 minutes is very, very important. Okay. It's not 5 minutes and it's not 7 minutes. It's 6 minutes. And that will require some patience, and some people will feel uncomfortable at different stages of it, but that's okay. That's something for you to hold on to for yourself. You don't necessarily need to share that. Okay. Again, this will become more clear as we do the break, as we do the trial run. And this is why I do the trial run in these sessions as well. There are 4 roles, and these are the roles I want yourselves to just think a little bit about when you're thinking about volunteering, when you're thinking about which role you'd like to volunteer for. So our 4 roles. Number 1 is our problem presenter. Problem presenter is a person who owns the problem. This is their problem. It may be that they're working with a particular young person, or they're working with a particular family, and they keep running into a specific problem, or they're stuck in a particular place. These are typical things. These might be things around where families are described as hard to reach, or disaffected youth, those sorts of, that language around not being able to get through to the person. It may be that's where you find yourself stuck and you're looking for some next steps or pointers or something like that. It may be something completely different. The idea here is that you, as a problem owner, are the person who is stuck, and you are the one who would like some support from your colleagues or the people around you. The next person in this role, in the circle, is the process facilitator. This is the person who keeps everyone in check, so to speak. And this is the person who is guiding in terms of, okay, this is where our timing is. This is the steps that we're moving into. This is how this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Then we have our note taker, which is a fairly straightforward. This person makes notes of what's being discussed and how it's being discussed. And then we have our reflection team. Anyone who is not one of the earlier 3, so if you're not the problem presenter, you're not the facilitator, you're not the note taker, you are the reflection team. And just so that it's clearer, the process facilitator and note taker are also part of that reflection team. Okay. Now, I often do this in person, and these sessions these circles can be done on Zoom or in person. There are certain things that you need to do very slightly differently, and I'll explain them as we go along, whether you're doing them on Zoom or you're doing them in person. Okay. So step 1, there we go. Step 1. This is 6 minutes. This is 6 protected, uninterrupted minutes where the problem is presented. Now, the person who is presenting tells us what's going on. They give an overview of the situation. They tell you what their thoughts are. They tell you everything that they feel is valuable and important to know about the situation. If you stop talking at 3 minutes, then everyone sits in silence for the next 3 minutes. That 6 minutes is important, and I'll explain why when we get to the Q&A at the end. But you're more than welcome to sit quietly for the full 6 minutes. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's your problem to present. And if you're owning the problem and you like a solution, then the more you present here, the better the quality information you give us here, the better that the people that are listening, the better that people in the reflection team can support. The process facilitator is there to make sure the 6 minutes is run and it starts on time, stops on time, and it's to stop people interrupting. So if anyone interjects or anything like that, the process facilitator's role is to say, I'm sorry, just not at the moment. Can we let the presenter finish speaking first? The recorder takes notes, and everyone else, I call them here the brainstormers. I know there's a bit of um, uh, people like to use different names. We call them the reflection team, the brainstormers, however you want to refer to them. Their role is to listen as carefully as they can. We move into step two. Step two is now in a reflection. And this is the first point at which there is a difference between whether you do this on Zoom or whether you do this in person. At this point, in person, so it starts off, you're sat as a circle. At this point, I invite, if you're doing this in person, I invite the person who's problem presenter to step away from the circle. So they're physically, their chair is lifted and moved back, and the circle closes around in front of them. So now everyone else is talking, and the problem presenter is on the outside looking in. Now, depending if you are doing this on Zoom, you might want to say to the problem presenter to turn off their camera. I'm not going to do that today, but it's up to you if you choose to do that. Again, I can talk about why we do that at the Q&A afterwards. But it's up to you. I'm not going to do that today, but that is the option if you'd like to do that, do it that way on Zoom. The process facilitator here is their job is to make sure that this isn't, no one's giving speeches, no one's lecturing. This is around, let's think about what we're hearing. What did we hear from the person? What did we connect to? What resonates with us? And we're coming up with ideas of, this is what I think. We're hypothesizing. You might have a few solutions here and there. I wouldn't jump straight into solutions, but this is a place where we can share as a reflection team what we think is going on, what we think is happening. Again, the notes are taken by the note taker. The problem presenter, the problem owner, is on the outside, and now it's their time. 6 minutes, nothing. They are quietly watching, listening, paying attention to what's going on. I normally suggest at this point the problem presenter scribbles a few notes of their own. It's up to them. They don't have to, but this is just to help if you find it helpful in your listening process that you want to just scribble a few keywords that you're hearing. That's up to you. You don't have to. The important thing is you're on the outside of the circle and you're only listening. When we move into step three, this is now that prompt owner is invited back into the circle. So if you're on Zoom, the camera comes on again. If you're in person, the circle opens up and you take your place back in that circle. You're discussing now. This is the opportunity to have that dialogue back and forward. The conversations I had, Simon, when you said something about, dental hygiene, and it was really important, or that really resonated with me because it was something I spoken about with the family previously, and I think it's important to pick that up again. This kind of stuff. You're having a discussion, it's a back and forth, it's the problem owner connecting with the different ideas they're hearing, the different hypotheses, the different things they're hearing from the team around them. Clarification. I say here to focus only on the positive points. And this is important because the tools are only as good as as the people using them. If you get bogged down in the oh, then this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. The point of the tool is to come up with a few next steps. If you're stuck, you need next steps. You don't need solutions to everything. Okay? The solutions to everything come after you've made a few next steps and you have more information about what's going on. So where I encourage you here to focus only on positive points, what I'm encouraging is what can be done. How do I affect these next few steps? How do I make these things happen? Okay. And that's why focusing in this discussion, you can have a bit of dialogue about, oh, that was really lovely. I like the way you explained this, or I've not looked at it from this point of view before. So that's really helpful for me. Thank you. but we're thinking about next steps. And so we're focusing here on positives. When we move into step 4 now, this is our action phase. Okay. Now, the focus person, the problem owner, decide on the first steps that are doable in the next 3 days. And this again is the timing here is very important. 3 days is something that can be done in the next 3 days. At least one of those things has to be done within the next 24 hours. Okay. And someone from within the group should volunteer to phone or email or check in within the next 3 days to see how it's gone. Okay. So this is just about support. This is about being that kind of that person to check in with. Well, I tried this and this worked, or that worked, or this didn't work, or etc. You can use it as an opportunity for reflection. You don't have to. It might be that the person is a stranger, or they don't know them well enough to turn it into a full-on conversation. But a simple email, hey, we had a conversation, we did the solution circle a couple of days ago. Were you able to do your next step? How did it go? That kind of stuff. You're not holding anyone to account. Okay, what you're doing here is just checking in to make sure that everything's okay and how did it go. The recorder, the note taker who's been taking notes this entire time, hands these notes to the problem owner, and effectively we can close the circle at this point. There is a 4.1, and I'll explain that in a second, but I just want to reiterate here, each phase of these, well, I've called them steps here, but each step or each phase is 6 minutes. Okay. Now the 4.1, it's optional, but I always encourage it, is a round of reflection where everyone in the group takes 1 to 3 words just to describe the experience. This is not a comment on the problem. This is not a comment on the problem presenter or anything like that. This is a comment or a couple of words on the overall experience of the circle. Now, this is done for every circle. This isn't, oh, do it the first time and see how you feel. This is, I encourage it. How did that feel as a process? Okay. So a quick summary is these are the 4 steps. Okay. We've got present, reflect, discuss, act. We have our roles. We know that each step is 6 minutes. Okay. Now, we'll come back to this in a moment, but at this point, I want to see if there's any questions before we move into our own kind of space to reflect a little bit on how everyone's feeling, who would like to volunteer, and thinking about what we talked about last time and what we talked about just now in the roles that we're in terms of youth justice and supporting people before we have an opportunity to go into our breakout room and trial it for ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing at this point here. Hopefully everyone can see me. But I'm just going to invite people to unmute themselves initially if they've got any questions here, or we can lead some reflection. Just going to open the chat as well, see if there are any questions in the chat.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Can you go over again, what are we about to do?
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a trial run of the solution circles that I was just explaining. I wanted to see if anyone had any questions about the circles themselves. Yes, I'll hand out the instructions ready for the breakout as well. But before we do a trial run of the solution circles, I just wanted to see firstly if anyone had any questions, but secondly, I was going to lead a little bit of reflection, but before we get to that, this was just questions about the the solution circles themselves. I got a DM, someone asking me about what types of problems. These are, it's not about whether or not the problem is simple or single or complex. This is about how you are with the problem at the moment. So if you're feeling stuck, like I've run out of ideas or I'm not quite sure where to go next, I don't really know. Um, uh, uh, I've got a couple of options, but I'm not quite sure what one's going to be the most effective, or I've tried these 2 or 3 things and I'm a little bit stuck. I want a bit of input from my team, from my colleagues, from people who can support me. That's the kind of thing to use here. So the examples I gave earlier were working with, I really don't like the word, but I'm going to use it here because I know it's used a lot, is working with disaffected youth, children who are often described as disaffected because we don't know how to get through to them, or every time we try and work with them, like we're running into stumbling blocks, or there's a brick wall feeling. But yeah, so if anyone, I just want people to just take a moment for themselves as well, think about whether or not this is which roles you would like to play in this group. I know we've got about 75, 77 participants at the moment, more than enough people for us to look to about 6 to 8 volunteers. So given the time at the moment, so it's coming up to past now, we'll take the next few moments to just do a little bit of reflection, and I'll guide us through that reflection. But whilst we're doing that, I just want people to think about where they are. Though these aren't they're not hypotheticals, and I deliberately don't use hypotheticals, Claire. And the reason I don't is because you're not really connected with them. These are designed to be real situations, and I want people to experience a real situation and experience this tool in the context of a real situation. Oh, thank you. So while I'm going through while we're doing the bit of reflection, I want you to just think about, I want to volunteer and I want to be this role. So you can DM me, you can message Crystal or Joanne. I think if you message me, it's a bit easier, but you're welcome to message Crystal or Joanne if you want to volunteer, and just let us know what role you'd like to volunteer for as well. But before that, I want us to take a few moments to reflect. So for those of us who were at the session a couple of weeks ago on the foundations of Islamic psychology, and for us here today, what are some of the most prominent or most recurring feelings or experiences that we have when we work with youth in the justice space? What are some of the things that happen time and again, and they're either really, really invigorating for us and really empowering, or they wear us down and they slow us down? And before we go into the solution circle, like before we do the trial run, I will run through it again. I'll run through the roles again as well. Ashley, can you say a little bit more about that? So you're saying same systemic problems, but help us understand that in a little bit more detail.
Sure, and I will unmute and turn my camera on. So you asked, what are some of the things that we see with youth regularly? I've been in direct services for 12 years, and it's the system, like youth pipelining in the system. So certain disenfranchised, or you said disaffected, or we just say at risk, right? Youth, we know who they are, we know the type, we know the families, we know the locations, and yet those families continue to be pipelined. It's a systemic thing, and it's intergenerational.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually at a conference a few months ago now, actually, around the role of belonging in this space, especially with people who are incarcerated. and their time during, especially their time during and post incarceration. But the role of belonging, or the role of engaging with or connecting with a sense of something bigger than themselves, and how that helps with the a reduction in reoffending rates. And I use that term because I know when especially when grants are awarded and money is given, no one ever looks at it in the context of how has this person grown. We often look at it in terms of, well, what are the measurables? What are the, how do I know that this money is being used effectively? And it's always like kind of our KPIs and our, reoffending rates have gone down and this and this. But how have we really engaged this person beyond that? Does this person now live in a community that is healthy for them and they're healthy for the community? Does this person belong to something? Is there a sense of connectedness between their soul, the things that they hold true to, the things that they value in life, the things that bring them meaning, and the lives they're living? How many people come out of prison and are put straight back into situations where they're in poor neighborhoods with terrible resources and networks around them, and find themselves with no other solution than to go back to what they had known before they went into prison? And so what are we doing differently to engage them, to engage their souls, to connect with them, to say to them, hey, look, I can see there's pain here and I'm looking to help you. And the way I want to help you is by going deeper than things that have gone on before. So we talk about the systemic problems, and I agree with you, the same systemic problems actually come time and again, time and again. And there's an opportunity for us within that. I think if we push back a little bit on the people who, with their measurements and their KPIs, to say, let's think about this differently. Let's approach this differently. Let's value these people differently. Let's measure these things differently. So thank you. Thank you for that, Ashley. I've got a couple of other things coming through in the chat as well, but anyone else is welcome to unmute themselves. Actually, you're welcome to come back in on that as well, by the way. But if anyone else wants to unmute themselves and share, you're more than welcome to. What else have we got? Repeated arrests and violations. Yeah, I think I touched on that a little bit of a youth feeling isolated, hopeless, powerless. Again, there's that sense of belonging isn't there. Does the individual with the problem ever feel overwhelmed with having so many people in the group? Problems that ever included in the group. Issues that often come up is when they're released back into the communities and confronting family, friends. Yeah. What are they going back to? I think one of the things I talked about in the previous session, and it always makes me chuckle a little bit, but when they were ready to discharge from a hospital, the way they knew, and this is the bit that was weird, but maybe not, one of the ways they knew someone was ready to be discharged back into their day-to-day life, as it were. And discharge is like a really modern word as well. They wouldn't have used the word discharge. It was more of a kind of, hey, your health, you're well, go and be well with the people around you. Was, can they eat a full chicken? And I always just found that hilarious, because I think even in my most weird down times, I've always been, I've got a thing for chicken. So I've always been able to I would have always been able to eat the full chicken, I think, personally. But, coming back to something a bit more serious, they were given clean clothes and money so that they weren't back into a situation where they were like, okay, well, I've been away for so long, I don't have anything to pay rent or pay bills and buy day-to-day things that I need. So how are we managing that? What does that look like in modern terms? Having a sense of community and connection was vital for me to embrace change. Absolutely. Thank you, Claire. Homelessness is another one. The unhoused, it's a big problem. And the way housing is now a commodity and not a human right is just making that, is pronouncing that problem even more. Heavy feelings, we get feelings of honor and joy. Amazing. Thank you, Danny. I really think about individuals entering the systems for selling drugs, because they need the money, then they get out, the rent. Yeah, So they go back to selling. Yeah, absolutely. My experience with courts is the courts not following their own court orders and kids having no consequence and become repeat offenders. So often the people who put the rules in place they're not above those rules, but they don't adhere to them. I see this a lot in schools where things that are put in place aren't followed through, and it can make things really difficult then, because there's no sense of consistency or integrity in the system. And so if you're not going to honor what you're saying, then why should I honor what I'm saying, or why should I honor what you're saying? So that, it's one of the things I do with parents as well. When I'm working with parents, I say one of the most dangerous things you can do is make a promise or a threat or anything, of a punishment or consequence or whatever, when you're angry or when you're tired or when you're in that heightened emotional state, because that's the most likely time you are to not follow through on it. Or when you reflect after the fact, you might think about it and say, I think I was a little bit too harsh, or I think I went a little bit too far. Okay, I've got a question. Can you share why the tool cannot be used by family members helping a conservator with next step of helping the person conserved? I think you're asking related to the question. I'm not going to name who it is. If you want to kind of clarify, you can either send me a follow-up message or put it in the full group. But I'm respecting that. I'm assuming you didn't want to be named, so that's why I'm not naming who it is. The reason I don't use it in family situations is because if you're not, let me clarify that a bit more. If I was there and I was invited into the family to support them with it, I would do it. The reason I don't do it purely just in family situations is because it's really hard to keep the boundaries because of the power imbalances in those families. And it's very hard if you have a parental figure who is typically or tends to be very authoritarian, to then say to them, I need you to stop talking at the moment and sit silently. And so from that point of view is one of the reasons I tend not to do it. But I'm not saying it's not possible to do it. I'm saying I am very careful with how I use it. I hope that answers the question, but if I've not answered the question, you're welcome to kind of just clarify a bit further. I'm conscious of time and I want to get through at least one before we try and do a breakout. So creating more understanding around legal system challenges that may arise. How to bridge the connection between concepts of punishment versus consequence and support an alternative pathway to the youth feels brought in to and empowered by. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most valuable things with any system is how much people buy into a system. Systems only exist or systems only work when people believe that the system is valuable to them. And so I think it's really important. I think it's really important that any systems that we're engaging with are valuable to us, and we're able to see the value in that system for us. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. I just got the feedback on the question and thank you. This is the question that I was DM that answered. Okay. I'm going to go over the roles once again, and then I'm going to ask for volunteers. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for your reflections. I hope that was a good opportunity for us to just think about bridging between what we talked about last time, what we talked about here a little bit, with some of the issues that we're facing. I want you again just to think about what role you'd like to take in the next phase as we do a trial run. But before we do the trial run, I'm going to just I'm going to share my screen again. Share here, and I'm going to go back to the slide with the roles on it. So our 4 roles are our problem presenter. Oh, go back. Our problem presenter, our process facilitator, our note taker, and our team. So go ahead, either pop your hand up or put something in the chat. I'm just going to open the chat window for myself as well. what roles would you like to take?
Study, I think maybe in the breakout, once people are in the breakout rooms, it might be, I think with time too, it might be best if like once people are in breakout rooms,
Uh,
to decide like the roles, if we can kind of like call in folks, maybe that might be a challenge for folks, but like to decide quickly, if like
I
somebody could be the problem presenter and the
so
other,
I was going to do it as one full. Sorry, I should have been clearer. I was going to
oh,
do one trial run with everyone
got it.
together.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
And then if we had time, which I'm hoping we do, but we might not, if we had time then for people to do the smaller ones in the breakouts. But I wanted to support the process facilitator with the first one. So then that way I'm connected, I'm kind of helping with the modeling of how it goes. So
That's
I will
perfect.
process
Yeah.
facilitate if we don't have a volunteer for it. But if someone volunteers to process facilitate, then I will sit with them and co-facilitate with them. It looks like I've got Joanne's really helpfully dropped the instructions in the chat. So thank you, Joanne, for that. Usually, the people who volunteer first get to pick their role, and the people who don't volunteer, who get picked on to contribute, get given a role. So that's the spiel I use to encourage people to volunteer. But volunteering must be just that, must be voluntary. So I don't like to pick on people. So uh, I'm encouraging people, come forward, be brave, engage with the tool and see how you feel about it. So just so that we're clear, I'm looking for volunteers to take one of these 4 roles. We're not doing that, so we're not going to go into breakouts yet. What we're going to do is do a full trial run, everyone together in the main room. So we have, is it Jamila or Jamila? I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name right.
Jamila.
Jamila, thank you so much. We have our note taker. Excellent. We have Cecilia, who is part of our reflection team. So we're 2 down. We've got another up to 6. Claire, thank you. What role would you like to take? If you've got a problem you'd like to present, you go Cleveland way. Cleveland, I am going to co-facilitate with you. Thank you. I'm just going to scribble down notes as well, so names as well, so I've got it down here. So Shannon, so I've got Ashley. I've done some of this with. Okay, I've got Ashley and Cleveland. You've both said facilitate. Okay, Ashley, you also reflection. So Ashley, Claire, and Shannon, we've got reflection. We've got Cleveland is facilitate. I need a couple more volunteers. Oh, Claire, you're presenting a problem. Excellent, thank you. So we have our problem presenter, Claire, Shannon, Ashley are our reflection, Cecilia reflection, Ashley, Cecilia, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cleveland's a facilitator. Need a couple more volunteers and then we're good to go. So the next people volunteering. Did I have someone for note taking? Oh, yes, Jamila, sorry. 1 or 2 more people, and then we're good to go. We'll get straight into it. So the next couple of volunteers, you're our reflection team. So you guys are going to be listening intently with purpose to Claire, and then you're going to reflect on what you're hearing. Claire is actually presenting Crystal. Cool. Cool. So Danny is going to join us. All right. Let's do it with this many people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 7 people. We're there. We've got it. Okay. So what I'm going to ask is for anyone who is active in this next stage. So this is in our trial run. So Shannon, Claire, Ashley, Cecilia, Cleveland, Jamila, Danny. I'd like you all to turn on your cameras. Everyone else, I'm going to invite you to turn your cameras off. Okay. Cleveland, you are our process facilitator. So the 6 or 7 of you, if you can also unmute yourselves as well. I'm going to encourage you all now. Anyone else, if you turn your cameras off. Everyone else now is just an observer for the next bit, because you're now just watching the trial run of it go. Does anyone want me to go through the steps again, or are we good to go? Yeah, everyone good? All right, let's do it. Cool. Okay. So Cleveland, as a process facilitator, you'd normally invite everyone and you'd welcome everyone. So if you, knowing that Claire is our problem presenter, I'm going to keep looking down to names. Claire is our problem presenter. I want you to just welcome everyone and invite Claire for 6 minutes. She's going to be uninterrupted. And then if you've got a little timer for 6 minutes, I'm going to turn off the screen share as well. That way, hopefully everyone can see. And if I remove Spotlight from myself, and then that way everyone can hopefully see the cameras that are on. So Cleveland, off you go.
Awesome. So welcome everyone. We are here to do a process through Solution Circle. Welcome. We have Claire here today, who is going to be presenting a situation that is in her life. And we just want you all to just listen intently for right now. I will start a timer for 6 minutes. And there will be nothing else but Claire speaking for those 6 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Cleveland. So the problem that I'm having is I have been struggling with using substances. It has led me to become incarcerated, and I am currently on probation, but I just violated it again, and my probation officer is looking at sending me back to jail or trying to look at some other options, maybe treatment or something. I'm not really sure what this looks like. I feel like I'm navigating it alone. My family doesn't really want to have anything to do with me. My family doesn't believe that, I'm struggling. They think I'm making this choice, and I've pretty much cut off all of my friends. So I'm just kind of feeling really lost here. I feel like my probation officer is getting tired of me. I continue to violate the rules and break the rules, and it's overwhelming. I don't want to spend more time in jail. I want to be able to have a life, but I don't really know what that looks like right now, because I just keep messing up, and now I have this record that's going to follow me around everywhere. So it'll probably stop me from being able to get a job anywhere or anything like that. And I'm not really sure what to do in my life right now.
Okay, so at this point, I am going to just quickly say something, and this is why the trial run is really important, is this at these moments is when I just see if there's anything that we've misunderstood. I want to check with yourself, Claire, are you talking about yourself specifically, or are you talking about a family or a child that you're working with?
Oh, I mean, I can talk about as if I were the child, but I was just saying, like, myself specifically. You want me to
Okay,
talk
cool.
as if it is a child and family that I'm working with?
So usually it's the professional who's working and is stuck with working with the family.
Okay.
Yeah, but at this point, if it's you and you want to hold it as that, that's fine as well. So I just wanted to clarify that as well, because sometimes people do present as if they are the person they're talking about. But
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that this is the situation. So there's that. Other than that, perfect. And you still have the remaining time. So I paused my timer, Cleveland. I'm not sure if you paused yours, but you still have the remaining of your 6 minutes. So the time is still yours.
Okay. So, I'd like to see change in my life. I'm open to getting some support. I don't really know what that looks like. I've heard some people that talked about, they've talked about different support groups. There's these, meetings that people talk about, people that had the experience of, getting into a pathway of recovery. I feel like maybe that's could be an option for me at some point, but I also don't really know what my life looks like without legal trouble because I've been on this pathway for such a long time. And it just keeps getting worse. And I don't want to be, I want to have a relationship with my family because they're tired. They've tried a lot of different things to help me, and nothing really seemed to work coming from them. And so we don't have a good relationship. Like I shared earlier, I don't really have connections with friends. And this is what, is going on in my life. And I don't feel like anyone really understands me. Like they hear me say I want to change, but then my behaviors keep coming up, and then I end up stepping out of lines with legal challenges to the place where I think even my probation officer doesn't believe me anymore. And it's really disheartening and discouraging. And I'm kind of getting to a place where I feel like I'm just gonna accept that I will probably be incarcerated for the rest of my life. I'll probably be an adult that does prison time, and maybe part of that will be kind of cool. I'm not really sure. But I'm kind of feeling just really lost and unsupported, and this seems to be like the only life that I know, is legal challenges, and now this haunting record as a direct result of everything that I've done in my life, and not knowing any different. I've heard other people talk about how things can be different, but I don't really think that applies to me because my circumstances they had support. I don't have anybody right now. So I'm pretty alone.
Okay, Claire, I have about 30 seconds left if you would like to share anything else with us.
Like I said, for I guess for another 30 seconds, I want to change. I want to be a good kid. I want to be able to live a full life and, have good friends and feel like I matter in the world, because I feel like the longer that I keep having these problems and everyone seems to hate me, then the more isolated I become, and I really just don't want to associate with anybody. And I'd like to know that I do matter and have people that care about me in my life.
Well, thank you very much, Claire. I really appreciate the time that you've given us to share your story. I want to also acknowledge the bravery that you had by being able to be transparent with us. So now we're going to turn it over to the team. And so at this phase, we're going to ask the team to just do some reflection on what they heard, just so that they are aware exactly of what they heard and they have it correct. Okay, and we're going to have 6 minutes for that. Okay, team, if you're ready, let's get started.
Thank you, Claire, for
I actually have a question. I'm sorry, Ashley. I was just wondering, are we just discussing or are we giving ideas during this section?
So it's my understanding that the reflection is just reflecting what she said so that you can understand what it is. Either that's rephrasing it or identifying the ambivalence within inside of her, recognizing the things that she just being able to recognize what she said. So you're reflecting what she said back to her. And she can acknowledge yes or no and correct you.
that appears to be the second or third, excuse me, point in discussion, whereas reflection is creative solutions. Am I correct with that, Sarif?
So both are valid at this point. I encourage more the reflection of hearing what Claire has presented to us and sharing that back in our language, because the time for solutions can come later with Claire as well. But there's nothing to stop you from, or you can't. It's not that you can't do the solutions at this stage as well. I just wouldn't get too caught up in them yet, because it's important also to hear how other people are interpreting what they're hearing from Claire. So both are valid is the short answer.
Amazing. Thank you for clarifying. Claire, thank you for being so vulnerable, speaking your truth and your needs, and also your fears of living a life without court or jail does not seem reachable to you, but you're fearful of going back to jail, potentially needing treatment. You feel alone and there's no family and no friends. You continue to make bad choices and you're just feeling lost. And perhaps these are not bad choices. These are just the choices that present themselves because is there an out for you? And reflecting, you are not alone. And we will come up with a creative solution. We'll present other solutions to you because you matter. And we would like to see a life, if that is getting support by, alumni supports or peer support specialists, through other people who've lived this life, and to offer you hope. It may not be through me, but I could certainly find that connection for you. And perhaps we could be your new friend. Maybe your community for the first time, that hadn't come up but once before. Marianne says that you feel lonely, lost, and alone. And lonely and alone are, two different things.
Okay, so I'm just going to interject at this point here. So this is for the reflection team. I want you to talk about Claire in the third person. So we're going to do something that I refer to as gossiping in the presence of. We talk about Claire, not to Claire. Okay, the first thing. The second thing, if we can hold comments just till the end of the circle, just because the idea of this session is it's protected for the people who are in the circle. So thank you very much, Marianne and Linda, for contributing there. If we can just hold those comments, just so that the reflection teams are the people that are reflecting. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Again, we're gossiping in the presence of, so we're talking about Claire, not to Claire. Awesome.
So reflection team, did I get that right?
What are everyone else's thoughts? How else have they understood or interpreted? Cleveland and Jamila, you're welcome to contribute as reflection as well, as reflection teams as well.
So what I heard Claire really saying is that change is really hard. It's not something that she's used to being able to do. She doesn't have a support group to be able to help support her. And she also doesn't really necessarily have a mentor, someone to look up to be able to follow in like potential footsteps, to know what that's even going to look like. I can hear that she's scared, and feeling really alone is the hardest part for her. And some serious supports would make a world of difference, most likely.
I'll go now, if that's okay. When Claire was talking, as she was talking, it really seemed like she seems to feel stuck with no one to go to when she's struggling because there's no support, there's no friends, the family is becomes stressed from these actions. Her probation officer is also, probably inundated, but also kind of seeming to pull away. Um, and she's trying, and her struggle seems to be invalidated by people not believing that she is trying because she keeps on making the choices that make it appear like she's not trying. And then she's now thinking in the future, like, how is she going to get a job if this is her record? And that's a lot of things to be faced with. And she's been going on this struggle bus, I'm going to call it, trying, trying. And now it seems like she's just lost. She doesn't know where to turn.
I also heard ambivalence. I heard the fact that she, as much as she's really trying and she wants to do this, because there's always a brick wall. Every time she tries, there's a brick wall or a stumbling block that creates this pathway down the wrong way or down this hole that she's now even contemplating. Well, being an adult incarcerated individual, is that such a bad thing? Um, just understanding that it sounds so much like Claire is at the point of being sustained in that circle of life, that because there's no way out, no door to walk through.
Yeah, I kind of heard some of that. She's used to the legal trouble and experience in jail, and that's starting to become what's familiar,
Mm.
and that there isn't a lot of examples of what it could look like, so it's uncertain. It almost feels like reaching treatment. She said like it's an option at some point, so I think it's like I hearing that she's heard about support groups or treatment options or pathways to recovery, but that it's been in a too unclear of a way and it doesn't seem real yet. And so maybe she needs some real examples of what it can look like. I liked what Shannon said as far as like maybe some mentors or people that have similar experiences that are maybe farther along to kind of show her some examples of what it could look like and the possibility, and maybe also give some of that belonging and community that it sounds like she's not hearing or seeing, with things cut off with relationships with family and friends. So yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I wonder how much self-compassion Claire practices. It feels like Claire's very hard on herself. And I wonder how much time Claire has or has taken to acknowledge the things that she's done well, or that she's at least tried to do. Because I think she's very hard on herself. Certainly in her presentation, a lot of her language was about how she's the one who makes the bad choices, and I don't know that she's as compassionate with herself as she could be, or that she's acknowledging just how tough a situation she might be in. I don't know Claire's full situation, but I'm guessing a lot of the things that are going on around her are of her own doing, and so I wonder how much of that she's taking into account when labeling herself as the person who makes bad choices and not necessarily accounting for the things that are going on around her.
Well, thank you very much, team. So our 6 minutes is up on a reflection. So now we're moving into the third phase, which would be discussion.
Yeah.
So Sarif, you want to give me a little bit of a direction on that discussion, please?
Absolutely. So our action. So this is our discussion. So this is a 6 minute. Claire, anything that you heard that resonated with you in person, you would be invited back into the circle. So this is now you just going, oh, Ashley, when you said, Danny, when you said, or actually this was misunderstood from what I said. This is a clarification of what I was meant to say, or I think you guys misunderstood. Just anything that resonated with you from the past kind of 6 minutes. The floor is everyone's now to kind of, this is a discussion amongst everyone.
Just started the time.
Well, I'd like to address Shannon when you were talking about, you know, having a mentor, role model. You know, that's not something that I've really had. I've had people that came in and maybe tried to help, but they never stayed around very long. So those relationships were never really built. So I don't really know what it would be like to have a mentor or someone to maybe guide me that can relate. I also heard about, you know, being ambivalent about, you know, this is kind of my current life going through, like I'm used to getting in trouble, breaking rules, you know, getting arrested. And that's almost, it has almost become my comfort zone. Like I want to change, but I'm scared. I don't know what change looks like. I don't know how to change. I've never seen change. In my family, it's been very much, you know, okay, if you turn out this one way, then that's who you are. And, you know, so that stuck out a lot to me because I do feel like that. It's hard to think about what change would look like in a positive way for me. And even Sharif, when you shared about the lack of self-compassion, that almost made me cry because I'm very hard on myself. And, you know, there are certain things that have happened in my life that probably contribute to my present circumstances with, you know, probation and jail. But my brain forgets a lot of those because it seems I'm always the one that's in the middle of it. And you know, I think in my head I should be doing better. You know, I should be a kid that wants to make my parents proud. I should, you know, be able to go to school and pass all my grades and graduate college like some of my siblings have been able to. And, you know, I tell myself a lot that I'm kind of this black sheep in the family and, you know, I'm just doomed to fail everybody.
Okay. So Claire, I'm going to interject at this point. So this is, I'm going to giving direction to the group. So at this point, you can either hear what Claire's saying and directly respond to it like you were at the beginning when you were talking directly to Claire, Ashley, or you can do it as a, let's bring this back around into thinking on the positive. Where are we? Do we have anything further we want to clarify on, or is there something that we're hearing in Claire that we want to support her with and go, but you are trying, or look at the resilience you're showing or the perseverance that you have. Let's think about that skill and quality and let's bring that to the fore. Usually this would be a social worker or a counselor or a youth worker or someone who's presenting the problem. So you might look at it from that point of view. You might look at it from a what resources are around them point of view. Does that all make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know where we are in our 6 minutes, but this is a discussion. So if anyone has questions for Claire, you're welcome to bring them to Claire. If you have questions for anyone, you're welcome to explore those questions. But this is the 6 minutes of discussion.
We have 3.5 minutes left.
We have 3.5. Okay. Claire, I would be interested, and thank you for sharing more and clarifying more. I would be interested if you'd be willing to do a strength needs cultural discovery assessment. We can connect you and find connections to do this assessment, but it's on the premise
Actually, can
of.
I just
Go ahead.
interrupt? You're not
Sure.
suggesting it to her yet. What you're doing
Okay.
is wondering, you're describing this sort of thing. Have you
Okay.
come across this kind of cultural
Oh, okay.
assessment? This is what it
Sure.
offers, not do you want to do
What did
one?
you say? Okay.
That's
So
in the
clarifying.
action phase. That's the next one.
Oh,
Yeah?
perfect. Okay.
So just restructure your same thing, just restructure it slightly.
Perfect. Claire, have you heard about the Strength Needs Cultural Discovery Assessment?
No, I'm not really sure what that is.
Are you
Me
familiar
either.
with screening and assessment tools at all?
Well, because my family didn't really believe in like mental health support growing up, you know, I didn't really, the only like assessments that I've had is like getting a physical done at the doctor.
So very similar. And this assessment, without going really into detail like a clinician would, is checking out the whole person. identifying your strengths. What are some needs that you have? You've told us a lot of them, and we unpack them as an individual, the whole person. And they also flow with other needs assessments like risk needs responsivity, also another one that we could further discuss. But we look at your need for these certain choices. What are some strengths that we can lean into, and really just pinpointing what you can work on as an individual, as a whole person. We could also look at the mind-body connection and what is, what's kind of getting in the way, the biopsychosocial, that's also another assessment. But we can unpack those, but I wanted to know if you knew what an assessment was and if you'd be interested in learning more about that, so that we could lean in on what you're capable of doing, because I think that the collective group knows that you would be able to. We just have to find that for you or with you, and lean in that. And then we lean so much into strengths that we could add more things, if it be attending treatment or connecting with peer support or alumni support. Would that be something that you'd be interested in?
I think I might be interested in something. I kind of like tests, so I might be interested in something like that. Can
Sure.
tell me more about myself. Kind of feel a little bit like a lab rat, but yeah, that I could be open to that.
And it would not be individuals testing you. It's through conversation. We think
Oh.
of screening and assessing tools when we look at biopsychosocial or strength needs discovery, of getting to know you and again, your strengths and moving forward. So it's through conversation that we get to know you, just as like we have been in the last 12, 18 minutes.
And again, at this point, Cleveland, if you're inviting others to contribute, you're bringing other people in. I'm not sure where we are with our 6 minutes, but again, this is that discussion. So we've just hit our 6 minutes, it looks like.
Yes.
Mm.
You did.
That's so
Just hit the
short.
6 minutes.
Yeah, it feels like it's not very long at all, right? But Cleveland, now you're going to take us into step 4. Which do you want a hand with it, or are you good?
Sure, we go. I can take it. Okay, so now, thank you all. Thank you, team. Thank you, Claire, again. Again, I really appreciate the strength and tenacity that you're showing by contributing to this panel. So we're moving into the next phase, which is the action step. We have 6 minutes, and I believe that every one of us has the ability to contribute, to be able to identify an action step or a plan to help Claire as she moves forward. So instead of keeping her here, allowing her to move to a place where she's able to make a plan for the next step.
Okay. So
Ready?
our rules are on this. We want we want a handful of steps. We don't need to have 50 or anything. A couple is fine. They all need to be doable, or they need to be doable in the next 3 days. At least one of which needs to be done in the next 1 day, the next 24 hours. Okay. So this is, you can make suggestions to Claire, or Claire, you can inquire about things that you heard. What would that look like? How quickly could I do it? Where would I find the resources to go off and do that? Yeah. Off you go.
I have a couple of things. My first is, Claire, you had mentioned that, maybe there are some things in your past that have caused this. So, if you've never heard of adverse childhood experiences or ACEs, you can go to resilientnorthcarolina.org and look at that study, and it can lend clarity as to what may have happened in your past. And then you can also learn skills to kind of combat that. Also, I heard you say, stuff about finding a job. You can go to some, like here in North Carolina, I don't know where you are, Claire, we have NC Works, and that is where you go if you're going to need help finding a job. And they can find lists of specifically second chance employers that will employ those that do have a record. And I heard somebody mention earlier about, peer support. Your experiences have value, and that is something that if you come out, when you come out, I like to say when you come out on the other side of this, you can use your experiences to help others. So those are just a couple of things I would suggest.
Okay. So we condensed that. We've got ACEs, we've got a website that Cecilia, you're going to mention. I'm hoping Jamilia's already made a note of that. We've got the ACEs study, we've got the second chance employers, and then we've got an opportunity to think about keeping a record or a journal, Claire, of your experiences to help other people or to kind of reflect back on. So there's a couple there. What other actions do we have available? Claire, things that you've heard of that you want to inquire? Oh, Danny, you said this, so how would I do that in more detail? Or Ashley, you said this, how would I do that in more detail? Or again, other people can suggest things, but it's going to be Claire's decision which ones she takes and which one she doesn't. Okay, and this, because it's Claire's problem, this isn't for us to go, oh, well, she didn't listen to me. It's whatever Claire feels most comfortable with, whatever Claire wants to take for going forward. So yeah, we've got a couple, let's keep them going.
So one of the things that I'm curious about is like I think Ashley and Cecilia both talk about this peer support thing, and I don't really know what that is, but it sounds like I keep hearing like, the experiences, like would someone kind of give me some insight on like what that is?
How would Claire find
How
find out about that?
Definitely. So peer support specialists are certified individuals who have and are actively in recovery, and they return into this environment if it be in treatment. Typically, it's like in a recovery center, in recovery services or adult healing wellness courts or drug courts. And they work alongside case managers in support of wraparound case models to tell their story of they offer hope, provide solutions. If you're challenged with something, like here's one thing you could do today. Give yourself an internal hug, take a deep breath, right? They offer some solutions each day. They're informal or sometimes formal mentors. And they're also paid. So they're showing up every day. This is their job. So to get connected, you can actually Google if you have the capacity or the internet to go to certified peer support specialist in your area. You could link up with them at NA or AA groups. You could find them at recovery centers, and they could inform you of how to get involved. And also once you are on your recovery journey, and I think you have to be in recovery, part of your sobriety for so long, and that you can become certified. You could tell your story of hope and life for others, for next generations to come, because each generation faces these problems, right? So it's a paid position, and they support wraparound case management.
Thank you,
Oh.
Ashley.
So Claire, I am a certified peer specialist.
Oh, there we go.
Ashley did describe some parts of my job. If we were at one, I would recommend that your probation officer get you a referral for a peer specialist. So my particular job, I highly encourage going to treatment. Treatment is 28 days. You're going to learn so much about yourself, things that you didn't even know were even there. You're going to have so many tools packed into this toolbox of how to function in life, how to get through things versus going around things, which as a person in recovery, we go around things when we're using drugs. You have to go through them. There's no other way around it. You have to go through them. It's the only way to get to the other side of having a better life. Once you'd be done with treatment, I would highly encourage you to continue with your peer support. Personally, I would connect you with AA in a support groups. I would go with you with it to every single one until you were comfortable. Usually most of my clients, once they have a sponsor, I kind of back off and slowly find my way back out of that person's life. The more supports and natural supports that they are able to develop, the more I start to just find my way out until I'm no longer needed.
So this would be a bit of where Cleveland's role would come in here. The actions are great. if we keep them more condensed into how does Claire access the step? What does Claire need to do? We can spend a little bit of time if the person really doesn't know anything about how to do it. But if it's a case of how would I access a peer support? Speak to your PO or your parole officer, and they will get you a referral to a peer support person. So the action is Claire will call parole officer tomorrow, 10 a.m. and say, can you refer me for peer support? That's the action, right? So that's what this stage is. So we're still doing a little bit of the discussion stuff, which was in the previous stage. And I know 6 minutes isn't very long. And at the same time, 6 minutes is really long, okay? But this is the first time everyone's doing it, or very likely the first time everyone's doing it. So this is why it's really important for everyone to kind of experience how this goes, and just the slight tweaks that make this a bit more effective as a tool. But again, this stage is tomorrow, 9 a.m, call parole officer, bang, done, action, sorted. Tonight, 6 p.m, log on to the internet and find out, I say log on, I'm aging myself here, go on Google, find out how to access the ACEs study and read about it. Yeah, these are actions. All right, cool. So we've
I would
got
maybe, oh,
Sure.
you're moving
No,
on.
no, please,
I was
please,
gonna
please,
just
please.
say another thing. You referenced that you might have another violation of probation. It might be good to talk to your attorney about where things are, and if you are interested in treatment, kind of letting them know that so that you can work together with the legal side of things to maybe get the treatment.
Yeah. So I would say just listening to everybody, the three things that I think stick out that I feel like I maybe could do is like have a conversation with my probation officer about where things are right now. That we did have this meeting and, I'm trying to find other avenues. Then also ask if they can hook me up with a peer support. I think that's, it'd be nice to have someone that can understand kind of what I'm experiencing. Because maybe they've experienced the same or if not similar. And then the last one is, there's a lot of my childhood that I haven't talked about and I don't really know how to deal with it. So I think that looking into, I think it was ACEs, Cecilia, that you mentioned, would give me at least insight, maybe would help me not look at myself as such a failure too.
Okay.
So I think those three things, I could do.
Okay, so we have 3 actions. We find out when you're going to do them, and what I'm going to ask is for someone to volunteer to support Claire and say, I'll check in with you tomorrow at 11 a.m. So tomorrow, 10 a.m. So this is in the example. Tomorrow, 10 a.m, you're going to call your parole officer. So Jamila, you might say, right, Claire, tomorrow, 11 a.m, I'm going to call you. Tomorrow, 11 a.m, I'm going to text you or email you. I'm going to find out how it went speaking to your parole officer, right?
Yeah.
Or it's going to be,
Sure.
tonight at 6 a.m, I'm going to look at the ACEs study. Jamila, you've already written the web address, so Claire's going to go on and do that. And it's going to be a case of, right, tomorrow then at midday, I will contact and ask how it was reading that study or what it felt like. Did you do it? What got in the way? That kind of stuff.
I have a question.
Okay. Before we
Can
answer,
would it be appropriate?
go on.
I was going to ask if it would be appropriate to copy and paste the link to the ACEs study into the chat for her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this would be a closed session. We've got wonderful people who are patiently observing what we're doing here. And so we're just we're pretending they're not there. And so I feel it's safe to do that. So the study's in there. Thank you, Cecilia. And Claire, you can copy and paste that outside of here as well. But the people that were observing us at the moment, the other kind of 40 odd people that are in the room, they wouldn't normally be there. All right. I'm going to call it here just because I think of time. I want to give everyone a chance to ask questions as well. I'm already close that I'm aware that we're getting close to time. Thank you very much to Cleveland. At this point, you would just say thank you very much, everyone. And now is when I'm going to invite everyone to do stage 4.1. So this is the reflection, and I'm taking over a little bit, Cleveland. I apologize.
That's fine. You could, please.
You're more than capable of doing it. I think you fantastic. Well done. For everyone who's done this for the first time, brilliant, spot on. But at this stage now, everyone who's contributed, so that's including yourself, Jamila and Cleveland, I want 1 to 3 words. How did you feel? So you're not talking about anyone in particular. You're not talking about anything in particular. How did the process feel for you?
Well, I took a lot of notes and just wanted to kind of give space to, all of the professional team to give their thing, but I probably would like to interject it just to kind of give some affirming because I recognize that Clara is actually very aware and acknowledge like really knows like her situation. And so that awareness is everything in this recovery and when it comes to like taking action. So
All right.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Jamila. So how did who'd like to go next? Cecilia, 1 to 3 words. How did that feel as a process?
Very rushed.
Very rushed? Okay.
not
Cool.
enough time.
Okay, that's fine. And this isn't for anyone to put any value judgment on anyone else's contribution. So thank you, Cecilia. Very rushed. Anyone who'd like to go next?
It was a little intimidating, but intriguing and action
Intimidating but
focused.
intriguing. Okay. Claire, can I invite you to reflect 1 to 3 words on how it was?
I felt empowered and actually supported as a team, like watching you all work together. It was very empowering and not just like being the person with the problem, but seeing everyone come together. That support, like it was really awesome actually for me.
Thank you. We've got Cleveland and Ashley still to go in terms of just a few words on how that process felt.
So not sitting in Claire's chair, just wanted to say that it felt like everyone was present for her. They listened, they were able to actively show that they shared in the feelings that she had, not only the pain, but also the struggle that she wanted to get out. So, and that was a great feeling to be able to see everybody come together.
Sure. Excellent. Thank you. Ashley.
I felt challenged because with the instructions, right? Learning it for the first time. So challenged, but then also included with a greater solution for one person and hopeful. Knowing this model, what other ways and areas can we implement it? And so a lot of mixed feelings, but of course, I wish there was more time too.
Right. I've put my email address in the chat. You're welcome to copy and paste it and contact me. This is a specific tool to use at times. And I said at the beginning, this will not work all of the time. This works when someone is stuck in a situation. Claire presented a situation where she was stuck, and this has been really helpful. I think it sounded like, she's got a few actions, what things to do next. What's really important to recognize is there will be times when it doesn't work. Okay. And so tools are just tools, and it's up to the people who use them to get a sense of when is good to use them, when is not good to use them. Sometimes you're going to do this and it's not going to work. Right. And we need to be honest and open about that. Everyone has tools in their toolbox that they use sometimes and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that's okay. This is something to try as an opportunity.
If you want to do it, do the chat.
Sorry, say that again. I'd missed that.
I said there's the survey. I'm sorry, it was off topic, but the survey, the saw it pop up in the chat. So just making sure that that's what that was.
Alrighty, folks, we have reached the time thank you so much to Sarif and to everyone who participated. Hopefully this is something that you all can try using with in the work that you all do. Like John put in the chat, there is please be sure to take a few minutes to take the survey. We'd really appreciate it, and you will get a copy of well, one, your certificate of completion, a copy of today's presentation, a link to today's recording, as well as a feedback survey link if you're not able to fill it out now. It'll also pop up when you exit Zoom. But thank you so much to our presenter, and again to everyone who participated. Hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And like I said, my email address is there. You're welcome to reach out to me if you feel the need to, if you want any sort of have any other questions or want to clarify anything.
Thank you.